You've been told again and again to be grateful. Count your blessings. Focus on what you have. And you've tried, haven't you? You've made the list, said the affirmations, posted the thankful thoughts, but something inside feels tight when you do it. Something inside whispers, this doesn't feel real. Maybe you've wondered if there's something wrong with you. Why can't you just feel grateful like everyone else seems to? Why does gratitude practice sometimes feel like you're lying to yourself? What I want you to know right now is this: there is nothing wrong with you. And this feeling isn't because you're ungrateful or spiritually inadequate. If this feels familiar as I'm speaking, you might gently notice what wants to meet you today as we explore this together. The truth is, many of us have been taught a version of gratitude that isn't really gratitude at all. It's performance, it's spiritual bypassing, it's trying to think our way out of what we're actually feeling. Real gratitude isn't something you force, it's something that emerges naturally when you stop trying so hard to be grateful and start being honest about where you actually are. What I've learned over the years is that when gratitude feels like lying, it's usually because we're trying to skip over some very real feelings that need to be acknowledged first. We're trying to put a grateful face on a heart that's actually tired or hurt or disappointed, and your heart knows the difference. Think about this for a moment. When did you first learn that your feelings needed to be different than they were? Maybe someone told you to look on the bright side when you were genuinely sad. Maybe you learned that being grateful was more acceptable than being honest about disappointment. These early experiences teach us that our authentic emotional responses aren't enough. They teach us that love and acceptance come through emotional performance rather than emotional honesty. But here's what I want you to understand: your feelings have never needed to be fixed. They've needed to be witnessed. When you were 5 years old and disappointed about a canceled plan, that disappointment wasn't wrong. It was information. It was your sensitive heart responding authentically to what felt like loss. The problem wasn't your disappointment. The problem was a world that didn't know how to hold space for genuine feelings without trying to change them immediately. So you learn to be grateful instead of disappointed. You learn to focus on the positive instead of acknowledging the full spectrum of your emotional experience. This creates what I call spiritual performance anxiety. You're constantly monitoring whether your feelings are acceptable enough, positive enough, grateful enough. I've watched so many people exhaust themselves with gratitude practices that feel hollow. They make the lists every morning, but their nervous system stays activated. They say the right words, but their body holds the tension. This happens because we've been taught that gratitude is about convincing ourselves we should feel differently than we do. But that's not what gratitude is. That's what denial is. True gratitude begins with honest acknowledgement of what's actually present. Sometimes what's present is grief. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's just a bone-deep tiredness that needs to be honored. There's a kinder way to look at this. What if the resistance you feel to forced gratitude isn't because you're broken, but because your inner wisdom is protecting you from spiritual bypassing? When you feel that tightness in your chest as you try to list what you're grateful for, pause, take a breath. Notice what's actually happening in your body right now. Your body carries such wisdom. It knows when you're being authentic and when you're performing. It knows when gratitude is real and when it's a should. I want to share something with you that might feel different from what you've heard before. You don't need to be grateful all the time. You don't need to transform every hard moment into a lesson you're thankful for. Sometimes life is just difficult. Sometimes loss is just loss. Sometimes disappointment is just disappointing. And acknowledging that isn't the opposite of gratitude. It's the foundation for authentic gratitude. Here's what I notice happens in the body when we force gratitude. The jaw gets tight. The shoulders lift slightly toward the ears. The breath becomes shallow. There's a subtle sense of pressure, like you're trying to talk yourself into something. Your nervous system is wise. It recognizes when you're trying to override genuine feelings with spiritual concepts, and it resists. But when gratitude is authentic, the body responds differently. The breath deepens naturally. The shoulders soften. There's a quality of ease, not effort. The difference isn't in what you're grateful for, it's in how you arrive at that gratitude. Let me tell you what I mean by this. Yesterday, I was having one of those mornings where everything felt heavy. I could have made myself write a gratitude list. I could have focused on my blessings, but instead I sat with the heaviness first. I acknowledged it. This feels hard right now. I let my body feel what it was feeling without trying to change it. and something interesting happened. After a few minutes of just being with what was real, I noticed the sunlight coming through my window, not because I was looking for something to be grateful for, but because I had stopped trying so hard to feel differently. That noticing was authentic. It wasn't performance. It was simply recognition. There is nothing wrong with you if gratitude practices feel forced or hollow. Your inner wisdom is functioning perfectly. What wants to shift isn't your capacity for gratitude. What wants to shift is your relationship with your own emotional honesty. The shadow side of forced gratitude is that it teaches us to abandon ourselves. It says that our real feelings aren't acceptable, that we need to think our way into better ones. This creates a split inside us. Part of us is saying the grateful words, and part of us is holding the real feelings we're not supposed to have. And this split is exhausting. It takes tremendous energy to maintain emotional performance while suppressing authentic responses. I see this pattern in so many people who come to me feeling spiritually empty despite doing all the right practices. They meditate, they journal gratitude, they say affirmations, but something inside feels hollow. What's hollow isn't their spiritual capacity. What's hollow is the performance of spirituality without the foundation of self-honesty. You cannot build authentic spiritual connection on a foundation of emotional denial. It's like trying to plant a garden in concrete. The surface might look acceptable, but nothing real can grow. But here's what I've learned. The gift hidden in this struggle is profound emotional integration. When we stop forcing gratitude and start honoring what's actually present, we develop a relationship with ourselves based on truth rather than performance. This is mature spirituality. This is the kind of inner work that actually creates lasting peace. Instead of trying to think your way into better feelings, you begin to trust your feelings as information. Instead of using gratitude to bypass difficult emotions, you use emotional honesty to create space for authentic appreciation. The difference is profound. One approach splits you against yourself. The other integrates you with yourself. When you're willing to be with disappointment without immediately trying to find the lesson, disappointment can move through you naturally. When you're willing to acknowledge fear without immediately counting blessings, fear can inform you rather than control you. This doesn't mean you stay stuck in difficult emotions. It means you stop making them wrong so they can serve their purpose and naturally complete their cycle. When you're willing to be with what's real before trying to transform it, you're practicing the deepest form of self-compassion. And from that space of authentic presence, gratitude emerges naturally. Not because you're trying to feel it, but because you're finally able to receive what's actually here. Let me offer you some gentle practices that honor both your authentic feelings and your natural capacity for appreciation. These aren't about forcing yourself to feel grateful. They're about creating conditions where authentic appreciation can emerge. First, try what I call the honest inventory. Before any gratitude practice, take 3 conscious breaths and ask yourself, what's really present in my body and heart right now? Don't try to change it. Just acknowledge it with kindness. You might notice tension, sadness, excitement, or numbness. Whatever's there is information, not a problem to solve. Second, practice micro-appreciation without pressure. Instead of looking for big things to be grateful for, notice tiny moments of ease or beauty, the warmth of your coffee, the softness of your sweater, the fact that you remembered to breathe. These small acknowledgments build authentic appreciation muscle without the pressure of grand gratitude. If you try this tonight, you may come back and simply write, noticed, no story needed. Third, when emotions feel heavy, try offering them the same acknowledgement you'd give a friend. I see that you're scared about the future. I understand that you're disappointed about how things unfolded. I recognize that you're tired from trying so hard. This isn't gratitude, but it creates the emotional safety from which genuine gratitude can emerge. Fourth, create what I call appreciation boundaries. You're allowed to not be grateful for difficult experiences. You're allowed to wish your childhood had been different. You're allowed to want more support than you received. This honest boundary actually protects your capacity for authentic appreciation by preventing spiritual bypassing. Fifth, practice the difference between appreciation and obligation. Appreciation feels spacious and voluntary. Obligation feels tight and forced. When you notice the tight feeling, pause. There's no rush to feel grateful. There's no gratitude emergency. Sixth, try the body-based appreciation practice. Place your hand on your heart and simply notice, my heart is beating, my lungs are breathing, my body is here. Not with pressure to feel grateful for these functions, but just with gentle recognition of what's already working without your effort. Seventh, practice gratitude for your own emotional honesty. Thank yourself for being willing to feel what's real. Thank you for not pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Thank you for honoring your disappointment. This creates internal trust and safety. Eighth, give yourself permission to have gratitude-free days. Some days, presence and honesty are enough. Some days, just getting through is an accomplishment. This permission actually opens more space for authentic appreciation to emerge when it's ready, not when you think it should. Remember, authentic gratitude isn't a practice you do. It's a natural response that emerges when you feel emotionally safe and honest. You don't need to fix your relationship with gratitude. You need to honor your relationship with truth. When you stop performing gratitude and start practicing emotional honesty, something beautiful happens. The appreciation that emerges feels real because it is real. Your heart knows the difference between should and authentic recognition. Trust that knowing. I want you to know that you are not spiritually inadequate if gratitude practices feel hollow. You are emotionally intelligent. You are protecting yourself from spiritual bypassing. There is a place inside you that knows how to appreciate genuinely. It's not broken, it's just tired of pretending. I trust myself to feel what's real. I allow my emotions to exist without needing to transform them. I practice presence before performance. I honor my inner truth as sacred. I know the difference between authentic appreciation and spiritual shoulding. My emotional honesty creates space for genuine gratitude to emerge. I am worthy of authentic spiritual practice. You don't need to manufacture gratitude. You need to create the conditions where authentic appreciation can emerge naturally, and those conditions begin with honoring the truth of your inner experience. This content is for educational and spiritual reflection purposes only. It is not a substitute for medical, psychological, legal, or financial advice.